Ready? And relax. Okay. Hello, I'm Paul Belle-Isle from JKR New England. With me today is Charles Holmes, one of my students. Today we're going to be going over the finer teaching points, the details of Sunakake no Kon. So this will not be a performance of the Spo kata from front to back. There's another video on our JKR New England YouTube channel that you can see if you want to see that kata performed. Rather, this is going to be about the details of the kata, what separates a mediocre version of Sunakake no Kon from a correct version of Sunakake no Kon. So I have a little bit of a leg injury, so Charles is going to be my legs as well as my teaching exhibit for today. All right, so Charles, what we'd like to start with is just going to kamae. So bow in, announce the kata, and go all the way to your position. Okay.
お願いします。Sunakake no Kon.
Good. So you'll notice a couple things here that I want to emphasize. As Charles brings the bow across, he does bring the bow across. It's actually the point of emphasis. You do not want to bring the bow out. Okay? So the bow should act almost like a propeller in front of you. So as you bring the bow here, the hand is flat across the body. As you can see in this direction, bring it across, let the bow drop into your hand, switch out to here, rotating the right hand to get to the double overhand grip. And then as you bring the bow up and back down, it should not be swept up and it should not be straight up. Rather in and out slightly, in and back down. So a very comfortable feeling there. Okay? Let's move on to the first piece of the kata. Charles, if you would continue into the first mawashi strike. Right. Okay. So first thing that needs to point out here, Charles, you just stay there, is the bow in this kata is supposed to be parallel to the floor. And this is unusual. Most bow kata have the bow kind of pointed up, or even elevated up here. Some fashion like this. This is purposefully supposed to be parallel to the floor. Some of that is driven by the fact that it's a double overhand grip. So most of the kata where you see the bow presented this way have the front hand in this grip. This kata has the front hand in this grip, which I think has something to do with the choice of position here. So for a form of the kata, this is important. It needs to be here. All right, Charles, if you come back to the beginning of that, we're going to go through each piece. Okay, so the first piece is as Charles turns and do the double position into ukiyashi-dachi. So 1, 2, okay, good. So you notice where Charles' hands are right here. This is correct. They're on the hip, okay, in front of the hip. Bow can be in front of the hip, on the hip. Hand should never be behind. That creates instability, right? He's got good position here, and can you lift that front foot without lifting? Not too bad. Okay, so this should be ukiyashi-dachi. Ukiyashi-dachi is floating leg stance. Right, so 99.9% of your weight should be on the back leg. Very little here. You should be able to lift this without shifting your body weight. That's a good test to make sure you have the stance correct. This is not nekowashi-dachi with the toes down. This is ukiyashi-dachi, ball of the foot with the toes pulled back. Okay? You'll notice too that Charles had good form going on these strikes. Make sure you're driving, and that is driven by the fact that he's using hikite, the pulling hand, the front hand to make that work. So as he's going, he's not pushing the bow. Don't push the bow from the back hand. Pull it from the front. Pull, pull. Snap into place. Okay? Next position. Okay. Oh, this one. Go back. I want you to come up to the dip. Okay. Okay. So from there. Okay. So here. Okay. Now, this is sort of the signature move for Sunakake no Kon. Sunakake no Kon means flicking sand with the bow. So in this position, the bow should be just off the ground. So go a little lower, drop your stance. So your stance needs to be low enough that the bow is just above the floor. If you're up here, you're probably standing too high, or your bow is too short for your body size. Charles's bow is appropriate, so he needs to bend his back leg. Okay? One key piece here is the wrist position for this part of the kata, right? Quite often you'll see students bending the wrist this way because they're trying to bring the bow straight up. So you end up with a bent wrist. This is not correct. This is very weak. Bow can be knocked right out of your hand. So from here, what you want to do is keep the bow, or keep the wrist rather, straight, and allow the bow to come out a little bit in order to accommodate that wrist staying straight. So from here, out, okay? You'll notice that the back end of the bow arcs out slightly. This is acceptable. Keeps the wrist straight, okay? This is not good. This is correct, okay? Bow position, if you are doing an absolutely precise version of this kata, the tip of the bow should fall at the intersection of a line that goes from the middle of this foot and the intersection of the line that goes from the middle of this foot. So Charles is not quite perfect, but pretty close. It's pretty good, right? So from here, it should be right about here, and the bow does not touch the floor. There are versions of this kata where the bow is tapped before the next move. Our version does not do that. From here, just the floor. Okay, next move, snap. Okay, let's go back one step for me. So from here, nice clean pull and then go into the two. So snap, okay. So from here again, good pull, snap to here. Now, this is an important point. This is often seen as 1, 2, with the bow in a flat plane on both strikes. That is actually incorrect. Charles, would you go back to here? Okay, and I want you to do the flick. Okay, now I want you to do the next part slowly and easily so you can see the difference between the two sides. So dip, and then cross. Perfect, okay. So you'll notice what he did here is he snapped here, the bow went down on this side and then straight across here. Okay? As he did, he's lifting the front knee to bring his body weight in on the technique. So 1, 2, 3. Okay? All right, now, this next move, going back the other way, is very subtle, and for many people, it's probably the hardest part of the kata. All right, so Charles, if you would do the next move, each. Okay, very good. All right, so what's hard about this is in this position, you don't have any room to pull the bow, which you need to do because it's right against your body. So what you need to do in order to get a good double strike here is let the bow come away from your body, or move your body away from the bow slightly. So the bow stays as you start your movement, and then as you have room between your bow and the body, now pull. Okay? That gets you clean stroke. All right? One more time, Charles, if you would. Okay? All right, since this is all of the same as that side, we're going to skip to the next part of the kata. So, Charles, if you would go, just walk through to it. Go. Okay. Now, come forward a little bit so we can see more closely. All right, so the next move is a pivot 90 degrees to the back with a 45-degree block. Okay, each. Okay. All right, and what I'd like you to do, if you would mind, is actually turn this way. So start from here. So you're starting from, here, you're going to end up facing that wall. Okay, go ahead, each. Okay, so you notice what Charles did here, which is correct, is bringing the bow in and using the extension to help power the turn, right? So you don't want to take the bow and swing it. Here, the bow comes in and everything comes back out. Again, ukiashidachi. Bow position here is correct. 45 degrees to the vertical. This should not be either here or here. It should be in front of the nose at 45 as Charles has it correct. Okay, come back to the correct position. Cut that. All right, and continue each. So pull. Pull right, pull left. Yep. Okay, and dip. Flip. Okay. Now, the thrust on these on this, there are these sort of mawashi strikes, and there are chudan strikes here, right? Again, staying parallel to the ground. You don't be tempted to raise it, right? So for this kata, this is correct. Okay, that will change at another point in the kata. Okay, continue. 45 degrees towards the front. Okay, and then pull each. Good, dip. Quick. And side side. now, as Charles steps forward, we're going to do one more each. Okay, and continue that series. Okay, now, this is another challenging part of the kata. Charles is going to strike downward and behind, and then do 2 strikes going forward. And there's some key pieces here that will make this work. So I'm going to let Charles go first, and then we'll pick it apart. Okay, so each. Very good. Okay, so what you'll notice, if you can go back to the first position, Charles. Okay, so you should be, you're just here. Okay, so the bow down and back moves as Charles steps forward. Okay, so this is kosodachi. Okay, cross stance. Let the front foot turn out. Okay, go ahead. Good. Okay. It's okay also if you notice you can't see it very well from your angle. Charles's heel is off the ground on the back foot. Also acceptable. Okay? You should be looking down and back as he is, and has a little bit of an opportunity to brace the bow more strongly against his arm, but this is okay. Ideally, what you would want to do is, as the bow comes back, make sure it's sunk in under the forearm here. So it's nice and stable, and it's also against the leg. Okay? All right, and now from here, 2 strikes going forward. What's critical here is that you only do the second strike moving. The first strike is done from this position. So each, knee. Hi! Good. Okay? Let's go back and do that sequence one more time. Okay, so each, down and back. Okay? Chudan, jodan. Hi! Okay, so I'm going to correct one thing that Charles did. Actually, you can move for me for a second, Charles. Okay? That was good. Down and back is correct. Okay? The next move is chudan, just like all the other chudan we've done. Charles brought his bow up a little bit high, right? This should be here, and as I step in and do a jodan strike with the ki, this goes into the armpit. Okay? Up here. Here for jodan. So from the side, this sequence looks like here, each, knee, okay? You'll notice the bow changes levels. Here, then the next one is straight across, and the last one is up under the armpit. Okay? Let's have you from the ki point. It's maybe about here. Okay? And now turning 45-degree block again, each. Okay? And so this stretch is fairly simple and repetitive. So on the one hand, it's easier to remember. On the other, it's a place where students sometimes decide to get sloppy because it's 3 of the same techniques. So make sure your students are paying attention to each one. Okay, so each, the, san, shi, each, ni, san, shi, each, ni, san, shi, each, ni, san, shi. Okay, now this takes us to the finish. And the finish is unusual in terms of how the bow is carried. So I'm going to let Charles do it, and then we'll get into the details. Right? Each. Okay. Now, if you go back, Charles. Okay. What's unusual here is that Charles is going to turn on the front leg. Most of the time when we turn, it's on the back leg. So this is unusual. So as your students are doing this, it's going to be important that from this position, as they prepare for the turn, weight forward, right? So they can load up the front leg, turn, and then drive in with the strike. Okay? Charles, can you do to the one, stand on one leg? So turn, lean in, and stop before you push foot down. Okay? So each. Okay. So you notice. Sorry, Shelly. So do one more time. Okay. So you notice the bow is still on Charles's left hip, which is what you want to have happen. If you go back. Okay? So the bow stays right here on this hip until he's facing the front of the embusen and then pulls it back. Right? Pull. Good. Okay. Last piece on this part of the kata. If you go back, I want you to do the ki. Okay? Go ahead. Okay? You'll notice this is a longer ki. Right? So the first ki is very much an A. It's a very focused, short ki, which you see in most of the kata that we do. So it's here. Okay? Coming back, this is a longer ki. That lasts essentially from the point that he lifts up his foot and starts the technique. So if you go back, Do it one more time. Pay attention to when the ki starts, how it comes out, and how it finishes. Okay? Good. Okay. And now, from there, step up, and we'll finish the kata. Okay. Up, down, and then this is a simple reversal of everything that you did to get in. It's the beginning of the kata, and arigatou gozaimasu.
ありがとうございました。
Okay, very good. And you'll notice too at the end, as he comes back here and steps in, right? Again, the bow is in front of him, turning like a propeller. Okay? So from the side, up, down, here, bow is in front, and then around. Arigatou gozaimasu. Make sure at the end that the feet come apart for the bow. Arigatou gozaimasu. Okay. So, step up. Okay. So, thank you very much for your time. Hope this has been helpful. Charles, thank you for your assistance. And we'll bow out. Let's get. Great. Arigatou gozaimasu.